I've just come back from a very interesting talk given by Julian Baggini, who is a philosopher and the editor of Philosopher magazine. He's also written a series of books on philosophy and contemporary thought. He's one of the more accessible philosophers, though, and the book I read of his recently was Do They Think You're Stupid? 100 Arguments that are basically employed by politicians, the media, and so forth in an attempt to persuade, but actually are generally fallacious, and a guide on how to recognise that they're fallacious and why they are. It's a very interesting talk. He sort of set out the framework for the discussion, which was free thought, free speech, and censorship. Obviously, there's a lot in that. Where is the line between free thought and expression and free speech? The sort of legal versus the moral restrictions on free speech, the different models that exist within Europe, which often has laws against particular types of speech, such as incitement to racial or religious hatred, or hate speech generally, versus the American model, which basically says you're free to say anything you want, and it's only Congress that is prevented from passing any laws that abridge the right to free speech. And in fact, there was actually an American member of the audience who sort of explored that difference in a little bit more detail. And kind of went through some of the stock examples. When is that balance between freedom to say what we want versus responsibility to the action we have? Is incitement and incitement laws, are they valid, or are we just merely making someone responsible for someone else's actions? If I say go kill people who are black and someone else does it, then surely they're responsible for the action, not me. But can I be absolved of any responsibility, particularly in a context where someone's more likely to take action? So say if I was saying it in front of a charged up, angry crowd of people with pitchforks and torches in the Deep South, I think I could possibly be accused of actually having a very tangible impact on anything that might happen were I to do something like that. And as I said, it was an interesting discussion. He started off by saying it's complicated, and indeed it is. We are, of course, in an age now that is slightly post-censorship. With the existence of the internet, we now live in a world that's very different. And I don't mean that in a bland, the internet has changed everything way. It genuinely has. When it comes to censorship, it's now physically impossible to censor something. If you try and suppress something, it'll spring up somewhere. There is always somebody who believes so strongly in the hard libertarian principle of free speech, no matter how offensive, unpleasant, or potentially damaging it could be, that they will publish it in some form or another, or indeed people can just run their own internet services if they really want to say things that other people don't want to support. So you can no longer kill ideas, you can no longer stop ideas, and that is very different to the world we used to live in. In the past, the state could quite effectively stamp out particular viewpoints or particular discussions or debates, and censorship was quite possible. It happens in other countries, China being obviously the one that's people think of the most, although China's censorship does have holes in it, mainly because of the internet. News spreads through the internet. I was listening to the radio today about the nomination of the fact that a Chinese political prisoner has received the Nobel Peace Prize, and obviously Chinese state media is not going to be telling people this because they don't want people to know about it too much, but people find out. The internet will allow this to spread pretty quickly, and this will be a very big blow to the face of the Chinese Communist Party, that there is a pro-democracy casualty of the human rights and democracy movement has been given the Nobel Peace Prize, and of course that they're not going to talk about it is going to be even more telling. It just compounds what, probably the message that he's making. And some of the points that were made that I found particularly interesting are on the questions of political correctness, and also on the question of certain types of views or expressions of views or thoughts being just verboten. If you were to, I actually did a video on this view when I first started YouTubing, but I've since deleted it because it was when I was less good at making videos, and it was particularly unflattering lighting and angling and everything, so I thought it was a crap video, I'll get rid of it. But there was during the election, the national election in the UK a few months ago, there was this kind of much vaunted, hyped up moment where Gordon Brown, when he was on the campaign trail, managed to accidentally leave the microphone on and made a comment about a woman he'd been talking to who had basically been raising her concerns over immigration policy and how it was affecting people's local livelihood. And I think what he took from that conversation was, oh well, there's all these immigrants coming over here taking all of our jobs, which is the kind of tabloid fodder he has to generally deal with, and he basically just made a statement saying, oh, it's just a wicked woman. Now, I'm not going to focus on that situation because it was done to death, but also I don't think it's particularly that relevant. However, it is symptomatic of something that the left is prone to doing, which is labelling particular viewpoints as racist, homophobic, basically, misogynistic, and whilst these things may be very true, it can be often done in a way that suggests that the conversation is now over. That is a racist statement. End of stop, full stop. We can no longer discuss this. And your viewpoint, by virtue of being racist, has no credibility and cannot be viewed, cannot be aired, and we will no longer discuss this. Now, there are plenty of views on the right or even in the centre that you could accuse of being racist that I actually don't think have a good contribution to make to wider discourse. I don't particularly want us to be making social policy based on racist or racialist views. However, where people have concerns or genuine views they want to express, to tell them that we're not going to discuss this because it's bad, I think is actually a quite dangerous road to go down. I think this was made quite evident in Sweden recently, where they had an election, and the previous government, which has not been willing to have the public debate over the whether they are real issues or whether they are simply drummed up by the tabloids issues, I'm not sure, but the issue and concerns and fears over Islamic immigration and the tension between Swedish liberal culture and illiberal Muslim culture, and the effect this is having on Swedish society. And there are a lot of people who want to have this discussion. They want to be able to discuss it, but the previous Swedish government was not willing to do so. Their view was, well, we are a tolerant nation. People who claim that Muslim asylum seekers are coming over and they're just economic migrants pretending to be refugees, and that we shouldn't accept them and we shouldn't have them, and that you're all we will just not entertain this. We will not discuss it, and it's racist and it's anti-Islamic, and we are above this. So the debate wasn't had, and the election came, and by this point, people with sort of genuine concerns over what to them is a very real issue, and which I believe probably is actually a real issue. This question of the tension between Islamic values and European values is being felt all across Europe. It's not, it can't purely be a construct of the right media. It has to be some basis in reality for this to be so so pervasive and also so unremitting. People with very genuine and sort of quite run-of-the-mill concerns ended up getting, corralled into the same space in the discussion with people with blatantly xenophobic, racist views. They're all lumped together, and as a result, the people who were running in the opposition played on this and basically said, well, do you want all these, reproducing rabbit Muslims to come and take all your pensions and all your benefits and impose Sharia law on us at gunpoint? And the population did not want this, and they voted quite strongly for a change in government, and they have now moved to a centre-right government. And in fact, some extremists have entered their political system, which has scared a lot of people. But this is what happens when there isn't the ability to actually discuss things in the open. People feel they're not being listened to, their views aren't being considered, and if someone stands up and says, no one's listening to you, no one is willing to represent you, I'm willing to say what others are afraid to, vote for me, but actually what they really are saying is, well, I represent actually quite a narrow and potentially odious and unpleasant viewpoint, but I'm just going to say whatever makes me sound popular because everyone else is too scared to. Well, this is how you get far-right demagogues. I think it's interesting that in Holland there is a similar situation with, I think I'm saying his name right, Guy Wilders, who is currently on trial for basically saying things he shouldn't say and saying things that are anti-Muslim, and there are laws against this in Holland, and he could potentially face prison for it. He stands as the head of a party which now has enough people behind it to, for it to be a force to be reckoned with within Dutch politics. He's not just on the fringe; he's actually in their system, and I think Holland is actually really not helping itself by trying to shut him out and stifle him and pretend that the things he's saying just are not true and shouldn't be listened to and should be denied. You should not be telling people that their views are so bad that they've committed thought crime even having them. And I think if you can have a rational, reasoned debate with someone about their concerns, then you can establish whether there is truth in them. We frequently run in this country into problems with concerns over immigration, over race, tension, political correctness gone mad. The media here, very much dominated by the right, is feeds on this very much. And when you look at the evidence, when you look at actually what is happening in reality, it turns out that often it is just scaremongering. It is just an appeal to fear and xenophobia. But we know this, we've got the evidence, we could actually have the debate and say, well, actually this is not true, that is true, this is not true, and actually have a reasoned, rational debate, rather than simply saying to people, well, that is frankly a racist view, and I'm so disgusted by it, I'm not going to engage with it. How dare you say that there are people from other countries coming over here taking other people's jobs? Well, in some cases it's true, and telling people they shouldn't, they're bad people for feeling that way when actually it's happening to them, even if it's only happening on a small scale, is really quite misguided. And in general, when you don't have a discussion about something, then discussion just goes underground or just festers and blows up in your face. So anyway, that's one of the main things I took away from that discussion. Very interesting. I suggest you check out Julian Baggini. I've put a link down here into to his wiki entry, and you can read some more about his books and his activities. And yeah, good discussion, and I hope you provided some food for thought for you as well. This is Illuminatiprimus saying thanks for watching.